The phrase, there's a greater you on the inside of you, means being above normal, understanding your worth, and being confident in knowing who you are. But the first person who has to realize that there's a greater you on the inside of you is you. In life, we all go through stages of the good, the bad, and the ugly, which leads us to our purpose and promise. UTCM is a platform where you get to share your story and your truth of unmasking moments that allows you to embrace all stages in your life. UTCM looks forward to many people being able to unmask, uncover, and unveil themselves on the podcast. Thank you for watching and joining us.
Hey, Jenny.
Hi.
Me and Jenny was having some technical difficulties while we were behind stage. So we finally we got through it. We here, and we're gonna have a good conversation.
And I can hear you. It's the best part.
Right. Because Jenny was like, "Well, I can't hear you. I don't know how that will work, but we can make it work. I can read your lips." I'm like, Jenny, I don't think that's gonna work.
I was doing a good job though. Like I had it. I don't know how far we would have made it, but it's fine.
Yeah, no, I don't think we would have made it very far, Jenny. So, and then I ended up having to transition to my iPad, which I'm not used to using. I'm used to being on my computer. Like, I don't know what's going on with all these technical difficulties, but the perseverance is key. So we're here. We are here. Yes, we are. Hello, everyone. Welcome to UTCM Podcast, Season 6, Episode 6. I was like, okay, 6. I love it.
Okay.
Poor Jenny. This is new to Jenny, right? She has never been in this space of, even being on a podcast platform, but even being live.
No. Both of those things are frightening, but
she's here.
Here I am. Let's see how it goes.
This is what I love about Jenny. Really, really love about Jenny. And I thought it was just so befitting, right, that it is the end of mental health awareness, right? We are drawn to the end. Even though mental health, right, there's an awareness, right? There's this month that we observe mental health. However, it is 365 days, right? Like mental health is every day. It just doesn't, it's just not something that we do, once a month. Throughout the year, right? It's something that we have to live through every day, right? And this is where Jenny comes in. She is such a true inspiration to community, to what she does in the mental health field, right? And we'll kind of get into that too as well. She's such a light and so knowledgeable. But the key thing I think is that she really genuinely cares. Right. I think that's what really stands out to me, that she loves what she does. As crazy as this world can get, this space, right? This community, the mental health space can be very challenging, right? But she continues to show up no matter what, right? And continues to want to make a change, right? Knowing that she can't be the whole change, but she can be a part of the change. And this is what drew me to Jenny. This is why I genuinely care, and I genuinely absolutely love her. I love to see her in her space and in her element. Like, she's just dope. And I hope she feels the same way about herself, right, Jenny? So now that I said all that about you, right, there's probably going to be some people that are going to watch that may not know who Jennifer Gadsden is. Right. So, tell us, shine a light on yourself. Who's Jenny?
All right. Well, I mean, like you're saying, like I've been in the mental health field for, I think we're going on 22 years. 22 years. I've never done anything but mental health. I started, I found this funny thing from when I was a kid. I think it's like when you're like 12, I don't know, before you go to junior high, they used to make us write these letters to our future self. And I found it when we were cleaning out like my mom's house, and I was cracking up because it said at like 12 I said I was going to go to Penn State and I'm going to be a psychiatrist. And I was laughing at it because I was like, how did I even know how to spell psychiatrist? So, like, they didn't have Google, we didn't have phones. Like, how did I figure that out? I probably used a dictionary, but
Right.
um, so it was just funny that like since I was a child, this was always the calling. There was never anything else but this.
Mm,
So I appreciate what you said because that is like my calling. I went to Penn State. I started working in Pennsylvania, and I started my journey in the mental health field working with kids with developmental disabilities, autism, working in schools, doing social skills programs. And then I moved on to being a clinician and a supervisor for therapeutic foster care, where kids were taken out of the home because of challenges either in the home, school, community, and placed with therapeutic parents. And I was doing a lot of the therapy and managing of like therapeutic foster homes in Pennsylvania until I came here to New Jersey almost 10 years ago and
mm,
started working in psychiatric facilities and hospitals, psychiatric emergency, psychiatric community mobile outreach in Essex, Union County, all over the area. So I don't know anything else. Um, it's definitely where my passion is. I can't imagine doing something else. I wouldn't even know where to start with that conversation.
mm.
But it's definitely something that you know, like you were saying, you can't be the change,
Right.
but as long as, people are willing to try to be part of it, I'm okay with that. You
Yeah.
know, that has to be enough. Cause,
Right.
you know, um trying to think what else to share. Um Anything like personal or just
Yeah,
career
so I was
or
actually getting ready to because I believe, right, like what we do just as humans,
Mhm.
right? We automatically we kind of shed light on, the things that we have done, our
Mhm.
accomplishments, right? But sometimes we find it challenging, right, to really say, who we really are outside of those titles, right? Outside of the accomplishments, outside of
Right.
the things that we have done, right? Like for me, right, when I think of mental health, whenever, that I'm in a space or I need some guidance or some assistance with someone who is having a crisis or anything, like my go-to is always Jenny, right? Because it's just like Jenny, mental health. She got it. She has the answer, right? Which most of the time she does, right? But I want you to kind of, for a moment, right? And it doesn't have to be anything grand or, anything huge, right? But like, who is Jenny outside of what she does? Right? Like, what do you like to do? Like, what type of fun do you like to have? Like, are you a
Mhm.
person who loves to dance in the mirror, listen to music, crack jokes? Right? Like, who is Jenny outside
Oh
of her
man.
accomplishments and what she has done?
Oh wow. So like it all connects though. That's the funny thing. Like when you work in mental health, like the biggest thing is you have to have stuff outside of your work. Like you could not survive doing this level of work for so long every single day unless you have other outlets, right? So I'm a humor person. I crack jokes about everything. I do find humor in most things. Inappropriate, appropriate, doesn't really matter. I mean, I think humor really keeps people sane.
Yeah.
Being able to find like the funny part of something, whether it's irony or it's just so like ridiculous that you think it's made up. I always say that like working in this field, we should have our own reality shows because the stuff, not even like nothing even related to like patients, just in general, just like the people
Yeah.
we work with and the people we come across and the different personalities that it encounters. Um, I think like aside from humor, I'm a big travel person. I think
Mm,
that I would rather experience places and things than have things bought. Like that stuff is just irreplaceable.
yeah.
So those are kind of the things that keep me sane. It's music. I may not dance in the mirror. Maybe I'll try that, but I'm a big music person. I know, like, decompressing from the work, or
Mm,
even my family, my kids. A lot of sitting in a car, quiet moments, like just listening, driving. Maybe not on the parkway because that's not therapeutic, but you know, like having a lot of alone time is important. And it's something that when I was younger, I didn't do. I feel like I was always with people, or but as I got older, you start to appreciate like the ways that we cope and
yes.
decompress and like fill our
Yeah.
time when we're not working, because this work can be all encompassing. Like it could really
Hmm.
take everything from you. Um, so I think to continue to do the work I do, I have to learn how to have the outside, version. And I think that's actually still a work in progress and a challenge.
Hmm.
Because when you're in your 20s and 30s and you're like young and new in the field and you're broke, like you can't travel. You're lucky if you have gas to get to work, right? So
Right.
as you get older and you get more accomplished, it opens up some windows to be able to do some of those things. Um,
Yeah.
so that's kind of where I spend a lot of my time when I'm not working. Um, I'm a mom, um, of 4 children, um, an active all-star cheer mom. So a lot of my traveling is with my daughter. So we're very active. All my kids play sports. I have one in college. Like I have a whole entire life outside of work, but everything is kind of intertwined with each other, right?
Yeah.
Um, but
I love
self-care, I
that.
think, is the
I love that.
biggest.
Yeah, that travel part. Um, that is definitely something that I aspire to be able to do one day. My spiritual father he was talking about something to us, like to in our leadership class, and he was saying how I can't remember the exact words that he said, but it was kind of like, you need to find your place, right? Um, like you need to find a place where you're able to step away from your normal, right? Of your everyday of what you do, to be able to, you know what I'm saying, like have those decompression moments. Right,
Right.
because it is so important for us to be able to have that space for ourselves. And to be honest with you, I'm just learning that, and I really haven't necessarily found that place yet. But I am working towards it. Right. I know journaling for me is something that I love to do, but I also love to dance too as well. So if I'm in a funky type of mood, right, and I'm like, I need to kind of get myself up and moving, I will put on a TikTok real quick, learn it, and put that camera up with that tripod, go in that driveway. It could be two
Man,
degrees outside. I got my coat on and I'm doing my TikTok.
my daughter would die. Like she would. My daughter's a TikToker, and then she knows how to do everything. And like, I don't know, one time I was trying to embarrass her and I tried to get in the background. She was like, "Mom, that is terrible." And I was like, "I'm gonna stay out of the TikToks. I'm not gonna do it unless I'm
It's
purposely
fun.
trying to embarrass her." But I just couldn't. Like, that would actually give me anxiety, I think.
It's fun though. It's fun. It's fun. It is good for the soul, which kind of is a good segue, right? To I want to do like a little icebreaker. I know that we started to talk about, right, and I kind of had you introduce yourself a little bit, right, but I want to do a little icebreaker only because you brought it back to my remembrance when you mentioned about music, right, and you being able to, have your alone time and play your music, right? So my icebreaker lately has been it's called sound track check, right? So what song describes how you were feeling today? If you could name your feeling, what song would it be?
Oh my God. How was I feeling today? You're gonna mess me up right now. It was an angsty day. Like I need something good. Um, Jeez, I'd have to think about that for a few minutes.
Okay, think
Because
about
music's
it.
important, so it has to be a good one.
Yeah.
Um,
Think
and
about
there
it.
was a
Think what
lot of
it
feelings. There was a lot of feelings today in the last couple of days. So I'm going to think about it and I'm going to come back to it.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, let's hold Jenny accountable, y'all.
Mhm.
Tell
Yeah.
don't let her leave off without giving us a song.
No, I'm going to give you time. I'm going to
So
think
I
of
want
something.
to go back to something that you had mentioned, right? Because I believe that it is a very important, right, to kind of speak to, and I think this is kind of what made me want you to also come on to the podcast, too, because you spoke of this before, right? But you mentioned your childhood,
Hmm.
right, and how you, um knew that mental health was something that you aspired to do, right? Like this is what you wanted to
Hmm.
do. But then you also just mentioned too that you were never alone, right? And which you kind of, as an adult, that's what you kind of desire sometimes, right? To be able
Yeah.
to decompress, right? Can you speak to, because I know, right, a lot of the things of how we respond and what we do, right, like it does stem from our childhood, right?
Oh,
It
yeah.
stems from things that we have gone through, right? Things that we have experienced, right? So can you kind of just like unpack, right?
Yeah.
Like why you really, you know, knew that this was the space, the dealing with mental health, right? This was the space that you needed to be in because of what your experience has been in the past.
Oh yeah, no, that's easy, and I'm pretty forthcoming and candid with it. It's not that any of it's a secret. It's just you don't announce it over like
Right,
breakfast.
right.
But it's funny because I had the moment where I spoke publicly about my why and why I do what I do, and people came to me afterwards and were like, "Oh my God, I never knew this stuff about you." And I'm like, "Well, it wasn't a secret. It's just not really like you know breakfast talk." But
Right.
I knew as a child though, so I grew up in a home. I have two sisters, so that's, I mean, never alone, all very close in age, 2 years apart, all of us. Mom, dad, relatively, I don't want to say normal because nobody's normal. There's no normal. Um, but my mom, I noticed from a young age, would have a lot of like swings, good, bad, really sad, really happy. We'd be doing the funnest stuff ever. It'd be like, after school on a Wednesday and we're going to an amusement park, or we're driving to the beach or something, 2 hours. And it's the weirdest time of year. We're getting, 500 presents for Christmas. And then the next week, we're broke. Just really weird stuff. And it wasn't until I was maybe like in my teens or later teens that I was like, I don't know that that's like normal. Like, is
Right, 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 right.
it seems like that's a little extreme to me, but when you're little, that's all you know, right? So that's just
Right.
normal, I'm like, well, some days this is really fun and some days not so fun. And then it wasn't until I was like a young adult that I had found out that my mom was actually diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Mm,
And it explained it so much, like conflict between the parents or conflict between how I felt even about my mom, because, you know, I think I've described this before. Like everybody has a lot of traumatic stories about dealing with mental health, but they're not all traumatic. Some of them are great. Like I told
mm,
other people, like I had the best Christmases ever. The next day
mm.
maybe not so good, but like
Right,
Christmas
right,
was
right.
great because I said nobody could do Christmas like someone with mania. You know what I mean? That they over celebrate
There goes
everything.
that humor. There goes that humor.
No, but it's funny because some of my best memories are probably like involved mental illness, but there's like beauty in everything, including
Mm,
mental health struggles. Because here's the thing: there's bad moments, you really appreciate the good ones, right? So there's lessons in it. But I knew young when I was pretty young that there was something not quite right. And then talking more with friends and other family members, I'm like, no, this is definitely not right. So I had a passion early on to try to understand people. I wanted to know
mm,
what made people the way they were, and when you were seeing people with struggles, like what caused that, what was that. And then to even further elaborate on that, like I sometimes, and this goes back to your childhood and like how you're raised, I myself had all these unhealthy patterns of either overreacting, underreacting, trying to overachieve, all of the
mm.
things that spur from growing up so close to mental illness. that I also was struggling to understand. I still struggle to understand sometimes, if we're being honest.
Right.
Because even with growth and awareness, there's still those moments where you're like, "Ooh, that's an old pattern. Let's not do that."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
So, I mean, having a family member, like a close family member, your mother, who struggled with it, gave me a desire to understand her, and then
Yeah.
also understand other people. So
Right.
there was no fear in mental health. Like there's a stigma with mental health, and a lot of people who don't directly know what it's like or haven't been maybe directly affected by it are scared of people who struggle with mental health issues. But it was never a scary thing. It was never scary for me, because even things that might have scared other people, it's like you love this person
Yeah.
and you grow up with this person. So my perspective on mental illness is very different. So like if I see somebody in my line of work and people are like, oh, they're doing this or that, and this is frightening, and I'm like, it's not scary at all. That's somebody's
Yeah.
mom, that's somebody's sister, that's somebody's daughter. Like they're just struggling in this moment. They're probably great, under another day with medication, therapy, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it changed the way you see the world, because
Yeah.
every person I meet, I'm always trying to figure them out, which is terrible that people joke about that with like therapists. They're like, "Are you psychoanalyzing me?" We are kind of, yeah.
Right. 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 Right.
But not
Right.
in a judgmental way. I think that when you know where people are coming from or what made them, you can relate better with them, and you
Yeah.
can like share. You can find themes where you have in common, even people you would never think you have things in common with. I can assure you that when it comes to your own mental health and mental struggles and the things that come with that, you probably have something in common.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's where I have like a real passionate response to it, because it's like stigma. I don't like stigma with mental health, because when someone's saying something, it's like, well, that's my family. That's my
Right.
family. You know what I mean? Like my mom was a lovely person. She passed away in 2017, and it was a very conflicted, um a lot of conflicted feelings came up with that, right? Because she struggles. And it was always, the conversation was like, who's going to take care of her, like when she gets older, if she's still like struggling. And so when someone passes away where you've had such a conflicted relationship with, you don't really know how to feel, right?
Mm,
You love that person, but you're also like, they have peace.
yeah.
So there's two pieces to it. But I think it was after she passed away where I really was like, I'm not angry. Like I'm
Mm,
not angry about anything that went on in my childhood or being a teenager or young adult, whatever it is, because that was an illness. Like you
mm,
have to learn how to forgive people. Um and also like my own, anger towards that. So
yeah.
when I see families and I see people coming in and they're in need of help, I identify with all the different stages.
Right.
I run into like a lot of really angry like family members who are like either in denial or they're angry at the person who's ill, and I understand all those different feelings, you know.
Yeah.
Um and I'd like to think it makes me better at my job, because
Right.
I know where to give people grace, you
Yeah.
know, where
Yeah.
people who don't have those experiences, like it's not really something you can teach or something you can read about, right?
Right.
Hi, when this
Right.
person's really angry at you and yelling at you because of their mentally ill family member, just understand, like you can't understand, you have to feel it, you know?
Mm,
Um, and that's where I've also encountered a lot of really beautiful people in the field, because most people don't pick this line of work without having a story. Whether
that's
they're gonna
so
share it
true.
or not is different, but I do a lot of interviewing, I do a lot of hiring, I bring in a lot of clinicians and stuff like that. And sometimes people share things, sometimes they don't. But I can see it in people. Um,
Mm,
like I can see when there's a personal connection somewhere, and maybe you're not going to
yeah.
tell me today, but you might someday. Um,
Right.
and I think that's something unique about this field.
Yeah.
that you don't necessarily, not everybody has in every field. You know what I mean? Like this is something that's deeply personal.
Yeah,
So it if you're doing your job right and you're doing the work, I mean, it's going to affect you a lot. Like it really causes you to have your own self-awareness. Um,
yeah,
right? Because I'm always telling, I think the number one thing I always tell staff is you're only one really bad day away from the other side of that glass.
that's so good, Jenny.
But I believe that. I believe anybody can be here. And it's just that judgment that people have, or the stigma, like you have to check yourself with that.
That's good.
Because you can be, this could be you or somebody you really care about. And I think that it that helps some people, I think, with perspective and having compassion when it's
Yeah,
hard, you know.
yeah,
But
especially when you don't understand, or also just being in denial too
yeah,
as well, right? Like I
yeah, that's a
know,
big one.
just for the especially in the African American culture, right? Like the biggest thing is, and I believe, I may not have said these words before, but it has been a thought, right? Like, don't nobody know me better than me. Yeah, but that's the problem, right? Like, and I don't necessarily have a challenge. I don't want to call it a struggle, right? I don't necessarily have a challenge,
Right.
with, like going into like, a crisis, right? But I also understand too, as well, that I'm not exempt from it either,
No.
right? Like it doesn't mean that it can't happen, right? I just, thank the Lord above that, I have not, had moments to where that, I had to be admitted, or I had to be, screened, right?
It-
But it was also too because I was too afraid to even admit it, right? Because there's been moments, that I
yeah.
mentioned it, I talked about it in my book, when there was moments when I did not want to live anymore,
Yeah.
right? But I would never own up to saying that to anybody, right? Because what would people think, right?
Right.
Or, you have that thought of like, I don't want to go stay in it was the language that I would use. I don't want to go stay with the crazy people, right? Like even that language, right, is the wrong language, right,
Mhm.
to use, because at the end of the day, like when you're dealing with mental health, it really is an illness. Like
Yeah.
people are really sick.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I look at it a little differently too. Like it's not even just about illness. Like mental health is part of your physical health. And
That's
the
good.
fact that we separate it, like they're two completely different things. They're not even remotely different things. They're actually completely connected. Like just think about
Mm,
when you're not eating right or sleeping right or exercising or taking vitamins or seeing a doctor, like you feel terrible, but it's not just physically. Like you'll mentally not feel well. And if you ever like just try it and see how you feel. Check out your mood after you haven't slept for a few days or ate properly, or if you've been running ragged. I mean, if that's not an indicator of how closely they're intertwined,
yeah,
um I don't know what is. And people use mental illness all the time, and I'm just kind of like, it's your mental health.
yeah,
It's everybody has a spectrum, right?
yeah.
I could be at 100 today and I could be at a 10 tomorrow. And there's nothing that'll stop that, you know. It just,
Right.
you have to have your own awareness of
Yeah.
self. And I think that
Hmm.
is lacking for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um and that the whole stigma that's attached to it, and you talked about the community. I mean, we have to stop talking about it as strictly an illness,
Yeah.
because it's not an illness. It's part of our overall well-being. We have to take care of that the way
Hmm.
we take care of our physical self. And if we're being honest, most of us don't take care of our physical selves very well either.
Yep.
um I'll tell you, clinicians, we're the worst. We have no self-care. So
Right.
like we'll be the first people to tell you, and we know better, right?
Yep.
But look, it's hard. Like we're working, we got families, we got friends, we got people we're obligated to show up for, and it's a struggle for everybody.
Yeah.
So imagine if you were dealing with these extra things, right? Like,
Yeah.
things like schizophrenia, bipolar, like these hormonal imbalances, things that are just additional, right? if I don't have those diagnoses and I'm struggling, just imagine how someone else is struggling, you
Right.
know? And that's the perspective I keep. Like, I feel blessed that I don't struggle as significantly on a daily basis as other people, but
Right.
that also gives perspective into how hard it must be for people who are
Yeah.
struggling, you
Right.
know?
Right. And don't
It's,
have that support
right,
either too as well, because we also see that, as well, with people coming in, not having necessarily the support that's needed.
right,
Right. So yeah, it's I like what you said. And again, I love your perspective, right? And I just love the passion that you show. There's one thing you mentioned about when you were talking about your mom, right? And I am just learning more and more and more. I feel like over the past maybe 2 weeks now that the human experience and what you experience, right, it really is worth a lot, right? Like there's so much value in, your human experiences that you have, right? I was attending like a leadership type of seminar yesterday, and one of the doctors, which like I was just like so like um I was so grateful and thankful that he said that. He spoke about like, yeah, you can have the textbooks and all that, right? Like, but when you're in it, when you're in the thick of it, like all that textbook stuff, like that goes out of the window. It's like, okay, what do we need to do to get this person safe? What do we need to do, right? Like those that human nature in you, it needs
right,
to come out, right? And
right.
he had mentioned like because he's a doctor, so he had mentioned beyond the white coat, right? And I was
Mhm.
like, wow, that's a whole moment, right? Because sometimes we get so caught up in our titles and our acronyms and what we have and the schooling and the education and all that stuff. But then what about the lived experiences, right? When
Right,
you actually take a second, when you see somebody coming in and they are struggling with a crisis, right? Like, are you able to get down to where they are and speak to them? Or even, what I'm saying, bring up some stuff about you, right? And I think that is what really like I connect with you so well. Even though and you don't, you're just so like, yeah, because this is, and I'm like, Jenny.
like there's just no, and I always laugh about that because there's just very little that really like I don't know the last time something really, caused me to like stumble or pause. Everything just is very, to me, this is very normal. It's all very normal. When you see people struggling, I'm just like, well, they're having a really bad day. It's that simple. Like for me, so I don't, you know, I can tell right away if somebody's going to be good in the field, good in this work or not. And of course you can always grow, but there's stuff in people. I
Yeah,
think like in them, that is going to allow them to connect, right? And
yeah,
I think a lot of that is your lived experience.
yeah,
Whether it's a personal thing or something close to them. I think that that's what separates, good clinicians
yeah,
from the ones that aren't so good, is that you can teach a lot of stuff, but it's different when you can actually connect
yeah.
with people, and you can't teach people how to connect.
You
You
can't.
know,
Yeah, that's something that kind
it's
of, it comes from within.
it does, and I
Right.
know some people will do therapy and say you can, and
Yeah,
you can try, but to
yeah,
have a true connection with people is something different.
yeah,
And I guess I want so badly for other people to have that connection, but and that's where I have to be like, that's not my like I
yeah.
can't, that's not me. That's not my job. I can't do that. I can't bring that for somebody, but I do wish
Right.
for people to have that connection because I think it really changes how you see the world. And not work, like your friendships, your relationships, your family.
Yeah.
Um, because I do feel that if I had to name a strength, I think that I'm good at connecting with people
Mm,
who desire to connect, you know?
right.
Um, because I'm pretty forthcoming with a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. I'm not. I guess because I just don't think that these things should be secrets.
Right.
I don't know why the world wants everything to be so secretive. Like, why is struggling a secret? Um,
Right.
why is having family members with mental illness a secret? Why is having your own mental illness a secret? And it's
Yeah.
because of stigma. It's because of that, and because it just won't go away. I think we've gotten better with it,
Yeah.
but I still feel like we have such a long way to
Long way to
go.
go. We do.
Um,
We
you
definitely
know,
do.
so I raised my kids like that. They come home and they'll say funny. My kids say the funniest things to me. My daughter will look at me and she'll be like, I just need my time. Or I don't want to talk right now. I need space. Like,
Mm.
oh, okay.
Right, 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 right. But you've
uh,
created that space for them to feel comfortable enough, right,
yeah,
to be able to use their voice and say it.
yeah.
Which is not necessarily, something that was always, you know, it was something that you were able to do, right? Because that so you tell your mother back in the day, I need my space. You need your what? You don't got no space.
That wasn't a thing, and it's funny too, like the challenges of being a parent is like you don't want to create children that are disrespectful or like they think
Right.
they can say whatever. Like there is a balance there, because I do feel sometimes people have swung way far the other way, where people are allowed to be disrespectful and we're calling it feelings, and it's like, no, that's disrespect. Like there is a
Right.
line, right? I think we need to be careful that we're teaching our children and our friends, family, like how we want to be treated, by being an example, right?
Yes.
And when something doesn't feel good, you need to check people on that,
Yeah.
and say that in that time. And I think that's something that I do. Um, but then again, like the field work I do, like you have to kind of do a lot for me to be affected by
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's that balance of working in the field and having children and stuff like that. Like you want to raise them to be um emotionally secure and emotionally have that intelligence, but you also have to be careful that you're also raising them to have respect and to know when their feelings do not trump everybody else's feelings, right?
Yeah.
So there's that
Yeah.
balance. But I mean, that's, I think, something we all, even internally,
Yeah.
you know
Yep.
um because I'm a very expressive person. um you're always going to kind of know where you stand with me, and then it's something I'm working on. Actually, I'm trying to work on my poker face as
Oh
I get older,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't have one. um but being genuine is very important to me, and I think that that's sometimes is a gift and a curse, because there
Mm.
is a time and a place where you just have to learn how to not react to everything, right?
Yes.
um
Yes.
for yourself.
Right. Right. What I think this is so good, right? There's a couple of different things that I kind of like where I want to go. But I'm really like really really being led to, right? Because I know that you have done so much work behind dealing with, going out in the community and dealing with crises, right? Which is can be very challenging, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe someone may watch later or maybe someone's watching now, right? Like as a person who is not a clinician, right, but someone that is in the community, right? Like what is the best thing for someone to do to that if and they see someone that is in a crisis, right? Maybe you can even explain to maybe like what a crisis may look like. I know everyone is different, right? But maybe like some symptoms, right, that someone may be exhibiting where they someone needs to call for help. Like what would we do as people who are not clinicians, right, but we're in
Mhm.
the community and we see someone that is struggling and having some challenges and going through something, instead of recording them and putting them on Facebook and making a mockery of them, right?
Yeah.
Like what can we do as people within the community to make sure that we are still treating people with dignity and respect? Like how can we be a part a little part of that change? What can we do?
So, I mean, it really depends who you're talking about. If this is someone close to you, there's a lot of things you can do, right? If this is
Okay.
just people in the community that you're seeing things going on, I mean, there's so much support in the community that people are just not aware of. I know that
Mm,
there's a lot of fear with contacting police. I understand that. We work directly with police. I hear it all the time from family. They're always afraid if they contact the police that if they have a mentally ill family member, friend, loved one, that they're going to get hurt, you know.
right.
I,
Right.
I get that because yes, can people in a mental illness who are having like a true crisis be aggressive? Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. That can be part of the symptom, right?
Yeah.
And if you became aggressive with law enforcement, could something bad happen? Again, absolutely. So we
Yeah.
understand real world, but there's a lot of services right now where you can call for help and you can get a clinician, a mental health professional to come out with police,
Mm,
and come help you, talk to you, assess you in the community. They'll come to you. They'll come to your house, your living room, the privacy of your own home, talk to you, see what you need, what can we help you with, what can we do. They may tell you to come in to see somebody. But
yeah.
and as scary as that sounds, it's really just to help you. It is.
Yeah.
Um, it's just to make sure you're safe. It's because here's the thing. This is how you know someone needs help. If they're a danger to themselves or other people, whether it's physical aggression, making threats to hurt themselves or other people, if they're not able to eat, sleep, function, you're seeing changes in their behavior. There's a lot of signs for people who are maybe having depressive or suicidal thoughts, giving away things, saying goodbye, apologizing. There's so many red flags, right? There's someone you can call. And they've advertised a lot in the state of New Jersey for 988. That is an excellent place to start, because you can talk to somebody and weigh out what would help this person. What can I do right now to help them? And they will
Mm-hmm.
connect you with local psychiatric services, like I said, that will come right to you. Um, all hospitals, you can take them to any hospital. If someone's in crisis, you can advocate. You can call a hospital and talk about what's going on with your family member or loved one and talk to a clinician and find out what the best course of action is. But
Mm-hmm.
the worst thing that somebody could do is not do anything. Um, that's not helping someone with mental illness or someone who's having a crisis. It's enabling the person. It's doing like the key indicator between someone who's going to have a good prognosis and a poor one is support. So the best thing you could do is be a support person.
Yeah.
And they may not like you for that,
Right.
but let's just be real. I don't do this work to be liked. My patients don't like me every day, but neither do my children. That's okay.
Right.
We love them anyway, right? Like
Right.
that's just part
Right.
of the work. Um, but there's so much help out there, but you gotta make the call. You gotta make the call. And there is 24/7, 7 days a week. There's stuff out there. I think for a lot of people, they don't. It might be like I always think like when I was a child and I thought things were normal, and I was like, that doesn't seem 100% normal, right? We're
Right.
not all experts. We don't know. Sometimes you don't know what you're seeing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. But
Right.
being vulnerable enough to ask those questions and reach out and be like, so this is what's going on, and I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Um, but as a support person, like you have a huge impact in helping someone, you know? So just getting that information out there. I think it's out there, but still people not using it. And I think it's because of the fear attached
Yep.
to it.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's the fear. It's the fear.
Yeah.
And we know that, but I don't, I, I think like I was talking about earlier, the biggest thing is stop separating it, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna go to my doctor if I'm sick. If I have a really bad flu or a cold, or I'm starting to
Right.
have pain somewhere, or this part of my body stopped working, whatever, whatever it is,
Right.
I'm gonna make a phone call and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna talk about it, and we're gonna get an appointment, and we're gonna figure it out, right? Like, my desire for the world is that we do the same thing with our mental health.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I haven't been feeling good for a few weeks. I'm feeling really sad. I'm having trouble sleeping. I'm having trouble focusing. Like, I guess it's like, I don't know why we treat them different,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. They're not
Um,
different at all. They
no,
definitely intertwine, like you
no,
said, like
they're
you.
completely together. Uh, and I say this with so much love, but my fellow clinicians, they are some of the funniest, craziest, with love people I've ever met. And they all have challenges and they have stories, but they're here because they want to help, right?
Right.
Because you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be normal. Like, we are all struggling, right? Um,
Yes.
and that's what I like. The person you're going to reach out to and call is a person just like you.
Right.
Like, they're not. Nobody's special. Nobody has
Right.
superpowers. You're going to reach out on the other end of the phone, and you're going to get somebody who's a real person. He's going to listen to whatever's going on and tell you, like, oh, that's concerning. Let's talk about that. Let's figure that out. Let me come talk to you.
Yeah.
Let me come see you. Yes, I do have to bring police, but that is a protocol. That is not to
Right.
hurt you.
Right.
That is so we have extra protection if we need it.
Yeah.
You, me, everyone, right?
Right.
um,
And this
but
is something new too, right? Like with the because before it wasn't all, and I know that even like the police are trying to make sure that they have that clinician
mhm,
person, especially if they know ahead of time like what they're dealing with, right? So
right,
also being able to have that clinician, that person who is trained and being
yeah.
able to de-escalate,
Mhm.
right? Because sometimes, seeing the police, just keeping it real, sometimes that just makes people, even if they're not in a crisis, that can make somebody anxious, right? Like,
Who doesn't get
so
anxious when you're driving and you see the police on the road? Like, I may not be
exactly.
speeding, but in my mind, I could have been. I could have been.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
they are, and something important for people to know too is you know part of the good news is that we are talking about mental health, and there's a lot more awareness now, more than there ever was.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot more training now for police.
Yeah.
Like, they are being trained in crisis de-escalation. They're being trained in what mental health crises look like. And a lot of these programs that are popping up all over the state where the clinicians are working with the police, I mean, they spend a lot of time together. There are a lot
Yeah.
of conversations that happened, and a lot of, like, I never knew that. Those moments are happening.
Mm.
With law
Yeah.
enforcement and clinicians, there's a relationship there that didn't exist before. So,
Right.
usually if someone's going through a crisis and you identify something as a mental health crisis, odds are they're going to try to send you somebody that has that skill level and that training, you
Yeah.
know, for to make the support better, to
Yeah.
make the experience better. Because, most people, and obviously not every person, but most people get into those types of fields to help,
Mm-hmm.
and law enforcement included, you know.
Yeah.
Um, there's good and bad in everything, in
Yeah.
every field, every job, you know. um, but there has to be, we have to start trusting, that there are good people and they do want to help,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So you said 988 is a good number to
Mhm.
start, or is there other like resources that we can share too as well? Because I
98 is a
I think we need to.
suicide. It was initially marketed as a suicide hotline, and yes, it can still absolutely be that, but
Okay.
it's not just a suicide hotline. It's really for anybody who's experiencing any type of a mental health crisis. There's different levels of support right now where you might just get linked with an appointment when you make some of these phone calls. Maybe you're in a little bit of a crisis, but you're not a danger to yourself or anyone, but you're not doing well, right? You can
Yeah.
call those numbers and speak to somebody. They will also link you, like that same number will route you to a lot of crisis centers, depending where
Okay.
you call from.
Within
So
your
it's kind of,
area, right?
yeah, it's like a routing number, right?
Got it.
Um, and they can figure out what will help you. So there's anything from getting you an appointment to getting seen right now to having someone come to you. Um, maybe it's not just mental health. Maybe you're struggling with substance. Maybe it's both, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of linkage that can happen from calling 988 or calling like your local hospital. Most hospitals have psychiatric services and crisis hotlines, but I do know
Yeah.
most of the hospitals right now, like if you dial 988, they will route you to like a crisis hotline.
Yeah.
So they've got kind of like a real direct way to get people help when they need it now, which is great. You don't have to
That
look
is
up like where's my nearest emergency room? How do I call the
right.
hotline? Just dial 988, they'll help you.
Love
And
it.
they'll get you. There's also, I've heard, and I don't have like the exact site, but some of the younger kids have told me there's like chats and like text support
Oh
now.
yeah.
I'm
Uh-huh. I've
hearing
seen
about
that
this and I
too.
want to look into it, where like the teenagers and stuff, they don't want to talk, right? Like kids don't talk on the phone anymore. So everything's like text, social media. So they're developing these platforms where if you're struggling, you can text and speak to somebody, and
Yeah.
there'll be like a trained crisis worker that'll text you
Yep.
back.
It's
I,
I think I know it's one through what is it? MHA, Mental Health Association. Yeah,
yeah,
so I know it's actually I have someone from my church. She actually works for that organization.
yeah,
And like when we have like community events and all that stuff, there's there is a chat where kids are able to actually be able to be linked with a clinician to
yeah,
kind of just speak to, what's going on, which is, I mean, there are a lot of resources. It's just a matter of us, really
yeah.
tapping in and using them and using those resources, which I
I've
think
never
is
seen so
important.
many as we have right
Yeah,
now, and it makes me so happy because some people are just not ready to do certain things, right? So we're starting to
yeah,
develop things that meet people where they're at. What
yeah.
if my issue is severe social anxiety, and you want
Mm,
me to call somebody and talk about how I'm feeling? Like that sounds like a nightmare. But I might text somebody and tell them
yeah,
how I'm feeling. You know what I mean? Like they're really meeting people where they're at for the first time. In my lifetime, when I started this field when I
right.
was in my 20s. I'm in my 40s now. So it's like 20 years, right? And I've seen the evolution of mental health services. There's
Yeah.
there's you can do, and I don't know, maybe people aren't familiar, but there's so many levels of care. Like there's outpatient services, there's inpatient psychiatric services. They have this middle level that's like partial hospitalization programs where you go
Yeah.
like multiple times a week, and you can talk and have therapy, and there's a doctor and stuff like that. They're starting to do virtual at home partials where you have
Mm,
structured time where you are on like a computer and working with other clinicians and other patients. Like they're really expanding to these amazing um, like options for mental health care.
yeah,
It's a good
yeah,
time. If you need help, this is a good time,
yeah,
to be around. And that's saying a lot because we still have a long way to go, right? But
right.
um there's so much help, you know,
Yeah,
which makes me happy
yeah,
because, like I see friends, family, people struggling. I worry about my own kids and stuff like that. I'm like, there's
yeah,
so much out there that was not there for us.
right,
you know like all
right,
we had was guidance counselor, right?
right. And
What do
they
we
really
have?
they didn't know. They, like, oh, drink some water.
They're like, breathe.
Drink water?
Have a cookie.
Breathing in and out. A
um
snack. Yeah,
no,
but
I
I'm
know,
dealing
it's
with
like,
some real
have a
stuff.
nap. No, I know, I
Go
laugh
to
because
sleep. Oh yeah, that's the good one. Go to sleep.
glass of water, go to sleep, take a nap.
Yeah.
I grew up in a home with like, I laugh so hard because my dad is from Poland, and he's like an old school like Polish Catholic, ex-Navy. Like when we used to fall, we were kids, he'd be like, "You're fine, just get up." Like if I was like, "Dad, I'm feeling depressed," he'd be like, "Go to bed." And I just
Go to
laugh
bed.
go to bed. Like, I can't sleep. So I just laugh because like a lot of us in the field, like we grew up in these homes where you couldn't say I need space or I'm having a moment.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that was just such a funny, like you couldn't say things like that. We live in such a different time. It's really come so far, which
Yeah.
makes me so happy and so proud. But I do look back and laugh at like the interventions that we had back in the day.
De- Definitely. And for me, if I when I looking back, right, of what I have experienced and what I have gone through, and to look at me now today, it's like, wow, like who would have ever thought that I would even, feel courageous enough to be honest about
Yeah.
what I'm feeling. You feel? I didn't
Right.
know that you could even feel. Like, oh, you're gonna cry, right? Like I always equated crying to being weak, right? Like, no,
I
don't
was
cry,
just
right?
that was just thinking the exact same thing. I was like, and I'll say, bringing back to like growing up in a home with a mom that struggled, right? There was that conflict of like, I had the dad with like no feelings, no feelings, and you had the mom
Right,
with so many feelings, right?
right.
And
Like off the chart.
I was like, oh, where do I go with this?
Mm,
So there was that dynamic and that clash in the home where one parent's looking at this as a weakness and the
mm-hmm.
other parents looking at this as a lack of support, and both things can be true at the same time, right?
Right,
um
right.
so wow, yeah, no, I struggled growing up because I was like, okay, do I never ever cry or do I
Mm,
cry all day? I was like, I gotta pick a side here.
right,
So
right.
talk about the struggles I went through, like trying to figure out who I was in the world, you know, growing up in a home like that. And there was no like outward abuse. There was no like no story to really tell. It was just the everyday growing up with people who are struggling.
Right.
And how it shapes us and molds us to who we become. So I mean, I guess I've come a long way.
Yeah,
I've come a really long
definitely.
way. I feel like I still got a long way to go, if we're being honest.
Yep.
And
I
I
don't
think,
think we ever really like arrive anywhere, right? Like we grow and we begin to, acknowledge and have that awareness, but there's always things that, you know what I'm saying, that we're going
yeah,
to have to deal with on a daily
yeah.
basis. So I don't know, I can say that, I'm not completely better, right? But I'm better than yesterday.
And that has to be good enough.
It really has to be good enough, Jenny. Like
No,
it
it
has
has to be good. It
to.
has to be. As long as I'm doing better than I was yesterday, I'm winning.
Come
Um,
on.
and that has to be, and it took me forever to learn that.
Yes,
Because
you
I
and me
have this
both.
like perfectionist streak that's so unhealthy that I'm still working on. But I have to start breathing, and a lot of it is like, as I got older, there was more spirituality. There was more like, I have to take this time to reflect. I have to think of the bigger
Yeah,
picture. I have to think of outside of myself. And
yeah,
that was really helpful. It was a really big support, for a lot.
yeah,
And I know, like we talked, a lot of the quiet time was really thinking about, okay, well, that was real dysfunctional. We're not going to do that tomorrow. And that's
right,
it. That's it.
right. Just make that decision. Making that decision to I think I said it yesterday in my wellness Wednesday, it's like the restarting, right?
Mhm.
Like being okay, right? That you actually did have to take that pause moment, because the reality is things are gonna come up. Like there's not gonna be, I was saying this to myself, sunflowers and dandelions, right? And even sunflowers go in darkness, right? But again,
Yes.
they're able to turn around and come back around to the sunlight, right? So there's things that's going to always happen, right? But it doesn't mean that I have to live there. I have to stay there. Like I have to allow these thoughts and these things to hold residency in my head either.
Right.
Which I believe that I'm finally like unlearning to not allow things to, you know, um, take me to a place to where now everything I just feel like it's horrible, right? Like I have bad moments, right? But it's not a
Yeah.
completely bad life. It's not.
So it's funny because I am such, and I laugh because I'm always like, this is my mom. Got this from my mom. I'm like, and I laugh
Oh,
about it because
Jenny, I
it's so true. Because I am like a super like, oh my god, world's over.
can't.
My life is over. And I laugh like when I think about sometimes it is something big, right? And maybe for a moment it feels that way. Sometimes it is like my kids didn't take out the trash. And I laugh so hard because I'm like, I am better than this. But I laugh about it because it's like this is where we're at, right? Like
Right.
I have that personality, that like really strong personality where I'm either gonna love you intensely or I'm so angry right now or
Right.
I'm so sad. And I do get that from my mom and I know that. And I don't know how much of that would be considered like mental illness or how much of it is just personality traits, right?
Right.
How we're raised. But my fiance, he's a grounder. He
Mm.
will literally look at me and be like, babe, I know you're about to start telling me that your life is over. Um, I can assure you it's not. So, how helpful it is to have those people
Yes.
to pull you back down to reality, right? And it
So
goes back to
good.
that about support. Like, and it can be anyone. I've had my children look at me and be like, Mom,
Mm-hmm.
that isn't that serious. And as a
Mm-hmm.
parent, you want to be like, don't you ever talk to me like that. And it's like, but
Right.
he's really right. Like,
Definitely. Definitely. It's that community. Community is, I am learning, like, it is the best antidote to when you are dealing with mental health, right? Even when you're dealing with health issues too and health concerns, right? Like being able to be amongst people who are going to be able to have you take that pause moment, like intentionally, like, hold up, wait a minute. Let's let's
yeah.
let's let's wheel this in, right? Let's kind of unpack what's going on.
Let's stop for a minute. And I think that if I could give anyone advice, and this is advice that I also
Good.
use
I
every
love it,
single
Jenny. Good
day.
segue. Good
Oh
segue.
my
I love it. I
God.
love it.
When you feel that everything is the worst, shut the door and just breathe. It
Mm,
sounds it sounds so simple, right? Just sit there for a few minutes and breathe. And if you can breathe, I assure you your life's not over. Like, I
mm.
assure you you're going to be okay. But you need to be able to take that minute. And I will say that I use that probably every day. I can't tell you how many times where I'm having what my interpretation is the worst day ever because I have those way too often. Just shut the door and just
Yeah,
sit there, be quiet, and just breathe. You don't
yeah,
even have to think about anything.
yeah,
And like it's a grounding thing, you know?
yeah.
And I think that that's what we forget to do. And that sounds so funny. It's such a simple thing, but when I see patients in a crisis, you know what they're not doing? Breathing,
Breathing.
you know?
Mm,
It's
that's
just
good.
like the most simple thing, but so hard.
Yes,
It has to be
yes.
so intentional. Um, you
Hashtag
know.
breathe. Hashtag breathe. Put it in the
No,
chat, y'all. Whoever watching, drop it. The hashtag breathe. For
no,
real. Breathe.
absolutely. And that's something that I remind myself, because when I'm having a panic attack, I'm not breathing. I'm probably turning red because it's
Right.
baseline.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
This was so good, Jenny. Didn't I tell you? You was like, Jenny was like, well, how long is it? Okay, wait, what? I'm like, it's an hour. You didn't even realize we've been actually over an hour.
No, I didn't realize. Yeah, I was
Exactly. I
having like a
told you.
mini. I was sitting there breathing. That's what I was doing. I was using my own advice. I was like, "All right, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine." My
Not the
kids
fact that
aren't.
we couldn't hear you. You couldn't hear me when we first got on. Like that didn't help the anxiousness.
Well, I was laughing about the whole like find a nice, comfy, quiet place, and I was like, "Oh my god, guys, I don't even have a comfy, quiet place in my home." I was like, "This is the problem. This is. It's all your fault."
This is why you gotta go in a room, close the door, and breathe.
No, absolutely. So I laughed about that because I was like, wow, such a simple thing, and I don't have it. So
I love it. This was great. This was really, really good. Thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you for your yes. Again, I know that this is not something that you are used to, but when you do something just, you know, because it is what you're called to do, it just, that's not something that can be taught, right?
yeah,
So I knew that this episode was going to be great. I knew that it would, be able to help someone. It actually helped me, right? Like, even though mental health is very near and dear to me, sometimes when you're in the thick of it and you're in the heat of it, you don't necessarily know, okay, like, what do I do? How do I respond? Right. And my thing is like, just being out in the community, or even now really, seeing that family member and being more aware, right? Like being able to know, okay, I can dial that 988 number,
yeah,
right? To get that help that's needed. When you know better, you do better.
yeah.
For real. When you
It's
know
just
better, you do
giving
better.
people grace.
Yes.
We're all
Yes.
struggling with something. Pick a
We
day.
all are. Yeah, I'm telling you. And again, like you said, we're not, what did you say? We're not far
We're
from,
we're only one bad day away from the other side of that glass.
yep,
Anything can happen any day.
anything,
Um, and
anything.
that part really grounds me, and it keeps me coming back to do the work. And it also
Yeah.
keeps me having the compassion for
Yeah.
this population, because that could be me tomorrow.
You
you
never
know,
know. You're
and I
not
never
exempt.
take that for granted.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So, with that being said, y'all, show some grace, have compassion, right? And if somebody, or you see somebody that needs help, or even if you need help, call 988. There's help out
Absolutely.
there. There's help out there. All right, y'all. Y'all go be safe. I've been saying this a lot on my videos. Do something that brings you joy. And matter of fact, go eat a good snack, because that's what I'm about to do.
Drink some water. Maybe take a
Drink some
nap.
water.
Those things do
OMG.
help. Thank
OMG.
you.
This was great. I love it so much. All right, y'all. Good night. We out.
Good night.